It was a commanding victory for Michael Broomhead last time out when the Huskies visited their home track of Sonoma. But tonight, we head to a different kettle of fish entirely, the world-famous Circuit du Sarthe at Le Mans. Will Broomhead continue his winning ways, or will someone else be able to take the top step of the podium as these F3s handle this power-hungry circuit? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 6 of the Flying Husky Racing League. You'll see it here all live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm DJ Clark, and with me in the booth is Reese Gardner. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Le Mans is used to prototypes and GTs roaring around this circuit and its curves. Will these open-wheelers be able to provide the same type of excitement we've come to expect around this historic track? Let's head to our track guide to find out more.
Welcome to Le Mans. When you talk about legendary circuits, this is a place that stands among the most famous in the world. Part permanent road course, part temporary street circuit, it traipses through the countryside just south of the city where it gets its namesake. Its size matches its reputation as well, clocking it at 8.5 miles, which equates to roughly 13.5 kilometers. However, when you take into account that it's split by only 33 turns, the frighteningly fast nature of this circuit becomes clear. Most of the corners have been added over the century of history it's experienced, but many have become renowned and respected. The two turns at the opposite ends of the massively long Mulsanne Straight play equally important roles. Tertre Rouge requires a great exit in order to not lose massive amounts of time, while Mulsanne Corner takes bravery and precision in order to brake as late as possible and keep opponents from passing you on the way in. There's also hair-raising moments like the tricky entry to Indianapolis, or the close walls along the bridge section in the Porsche curves. To win here, drivers will need a very low downforce setup, a good sense of strategy, and heaps of bravery. The 24 Hours of Le Mans is the crown jewel of endurance racing, which many drivers dream of someday winning and many fans flock to witness in person. Once you've driven the track here on iRacing, it's easy to see why.
Well, Reese, as I said, we're not normally used to seeing open wheelers around here, but how do you think the Huskies are going to handle this historic track at the Le Mans circuit?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one, because at Le Mans, you know, the top classes are usually prototypes, which are the fastest closed-wheel race cars in the world, and they're basically single-seaters with more bodywork, and the driver's seat shifted over to one side. So I'd say that the Formula 3 is a reasonably similar experience to something like an LMP3 or something like that, maybe a little bit stiffer in terms of the Formula 3, a bit more of a lively rear end. But one thing's for sure, the draft is going to be very important around here. You've got the Uno Diez straight with the Mulsanne chicanes going down it. You see it at the top of the screen there. And it's going to be incredibly important to get an exit from the Tertre Rouge corner. When you're up behind another car, make sure that you're within about 1.5 seconds of the car in front, and you'll be able to blast down that straight magnificently. Also got to be careful of aero push there in the Porsche curves towards the end of the lap. But for 25 minutes, it's certainly going to allow a bit of an opportunity for some racing here.
Well, we certainly hope so, but before we get to that racing, we want to tell you about tonight's sponsors. First off, it's Norsled. Norsled is a non-profit animal welfare organization dedicated to rescuing and rehabilitating and finding homes for unwanted, abandoned, and abused husky dogs. Today, every Flying Husky Racing track day or car event benefits Norsled with a portion of the proceeds donated to them. Even if you can't adopt, you can still help and ensure care for these amazing animals through your support. Save a Husky. For more information, contact Todd Curtis through email at todd@flyinghusky.racing. Tonight's event is also brought to you by Flying Husky Racing. Flying Husky Racing is a car club based in the Pacific Northwest that delivers premium track days and car events for automotive enthusiasts. FHR is dedicated to safety, development, and building community among members and participants. Find out more on the web at flyinghusky.racing. Flying Husky Racing. Track days are the best days. Well, Reese, you mentioned it earlier, talking about the 25-minute race, but what are the other details for tonight's event that we have in store for us?
Well, it's the same as usual, fixed setup, so the only thing these drivers are going to be able to change is the brake bias. They're in qualifying at the moment, 15 minutes, and 6.5 of those minutes have already elapsed. They have one fast repair available in the 25-minute race, so if there's an incident in one of those heavy braking zones, down into Mulsanne Corner, for example, or maybe down into Indianapolis, that treacherous fast complex, they will easily be able to get back out there, albeit with a short delay.
Well, we hope we're not going to see too much of that, but with the 15-minute qualifying session, it's a pretty long lap times around here. We are still waiting for our drivers to set the fastest laps right now during qualifying. There you can see going down into that fearsome Indianapolis complex, banking there, working its way around. That is actually a part of the original road that works its way around here. That's the 073 of Nicholas Collender, the 973, as he now heads down into the woods, working his way towards the Porsche curves.
Andrew Hardman, meanwhile, championship competitor, he didn't have the best of races last time out at Sonoma, and he'll be looking for a bit of an extra result here at Le Mans today, just exiting the Porsche curves, which is one of the most significant parts of the lap. There's so many places around here that can make or break your lap time around here, especially here through the Ford chicane. Very big curbs that can easily unsettle the car. He doesn't use all of the painted tarmac out to the edge, but that lap's going to be a 3:51.708, first time of the session. In terms of practice times, that compares, well, reasonably, about 1.7 off his time in practice of a 3:50.035. What about Calvin Lee, 3:54.3? So we're seeing times a little bit slower than what the drivers have run in practice so far, but they've still got plenty of time here. They can get in an extra lap, and they'll be able to increase those times a little bit. Nicholas Collender, just under 4 minutes.
And here comes Broomhead, the unquestionable dominant driver in the previous couple of races here. Broomhead working his way there through the Ford chicane, coming across the line, taking a little bit of chunk of that curb there, not like the GTs where they can really clobber all over it. Broomhead, to the surprise of no one, goes to the top of the charts there with a 3:51.676, but that's only about 33 thousandths of a second over Andrew Hardman, so we may have a little bit of a battle at the top here.
Man, and for a track that is 13.6 kilometers long. Sorry, I'm in Australia. I'm using metric. That's about eight-ish miles. 3/300ths of a second is an incredibly tight gap. You know, that's absolutely minuscule for such a long circuit here. So we'll have to wait and see if Andrew Hardman can respond to this one. If he can take maybe like a 5/10 out of it, which he should, considering the time he ran in practice, then it's going to be a tight battle for pole here.
It certainly will, but before we get to that, we actually do want to run you through the driver standings here. Now, Michael Broomhead, as we said, has been on an absolute tear as of late. He leads the championship by 14 points over Nick Horvath. Now, Horvath is not here tonight, but our third place driver, Andrew Hardman, only 16 points back of Broomhead, so that is certainly within striking distance. Nicholas Collender back 22 points, and James Doherty back 29. Doherty not here, but Collender is, so this could be an opportunity tonight for those third and fourth place drivers to maybe try to work their way forward a little bit.
Absolutely. Good points opportunities here at Le Mans, and I think what Broomhead more than anyone else has proved is you get the results by keeping the car on the track and by putting in those consistent times and by keeping it on the black stuff. Shows in the championship lead he has, but Andrew Hardman, if he can avoid errors and foibles and things like that, then he'll certainly be able to close up that gap. And if something happens to Broomhead, if he ends up retiring from this round, we certainly don't hope that he does, it certainly means that Andrew Hardman will be in the contention for the championship lead. Coming off towards the Porsche curves now. This is a purpose-built section of the road he's coming up to. Was added in the early 1970s, right there, when he makes the right onto this permanently built section. Flat out through these two corners here. Maybe a slight lift for the second left-hander. It's a little tighter, and then My goodness, this is one of my favorite corners on the circuit. It's so quick. You got to hug the inside. You got to widen the turn into Corvette curve. Be careful of the off track on the outside. What a brilliant section of racetrack. Sorry, DJ, I got a bit carried away there. I love it so much.
Oh no, it is all good, Reese. I get it. It is one of the most beautiful places to for cars to go through in the world. Watching here as Hardman comes to that line. Remember, just needs to take a couple of tenths out of that time. Does he do it? Yes, he does. That is pole position for Andrew Hardman with the 351 flat. Now we're going to follow Calvin Lee as he comes to the line. Calvin's currently sat down in third. He's about 3.5 seconds back of our leader. Broomhead, though, has retired from the session. He's in the pits. He's not going to have enough time to do it. So Hardman locking down that provisional pole. Let's see if Lee's got anything. It looks like this is going to be slow for him. He'll have one more lap to go here to try to put in a good time. Nicholas Colander now coming out of the Ford chicanes, working his way through. I think he's going to be a little bit slow as well. Yes, indeed. So that's not going to be a good one for him. Next one up looks like it's going to be Hans Salnave.
Mr. Salnave now making his way up to the Porsche curves now. And there's certainly plenty of room for improvement there. He's run a time 17 seconds off Hardman, and if he can get within 5 seconds, then I think that would be a very good turn of events there for Hans Salnave. Let's see how he goes through the Porsche curves here. Maybe a little bit narrow on the turn in, and maybe a little late on the turn in as well. Hasn't quite maximized the line through there, so that's going to cost him a few tenths of a second here and there. But down to the Ford chicanes he comes. This first chicane is quite a bit faster than the second, but still has brutal curbs that can unsettle the car massively. And well, I mean, especially in these open wheelers, you have to avoid those curbs. It looks like this might be an improvement for Salnave. It's going to be to the tune of about 2 seconds. A 4:06.6 is now the time that he lands on.
It's good improvement there for Salnave, but he'll still find himself in the back. And yeah, Reese, you mentioned it, and I kind of hinted at it earlier. We are so used to seeing drivers and cars in the GT categories in particular here during the 24 hours of Le Mans really aggressively attacking those curves coming through the Ford chicanes. And in these open wheelers, you really can't do that. There's a very real possibility to break the suspension if you take too much of those sausage curves on the inside.
Indeed, the Ford chicane, the main place where you see a sausage curb like that. And down towards Indianapolis, which we see Andrew Hardman going along now, there's the entry to this turn, very treacherous in many cars. Seems that the Formula 3 maxes out at about 270 kilometers an hour. I'm not sure what that is in miles an hour, but down here, that's another curb there on the inside of Indianapolis that you don't want to hit. You don't want to run too far beyond the curbs here either at Arnage. That's a very rough curb on entry. You can run quite wide out to the exit, but you know, the amount of speed you carry certainly defined by that curb on the entry to the right-hander. You can actually go over the top of it in some cars, but I don't think that's possible in the Formula 3.
No, I think if they try to do that, they'll get a little bit of bottoming out. Hardman calling it quits there. He is going to call it a day. Waiting now, Calvin Lee will be the next cross over the line. There you see, just as you said, Reese taking a very wide exit on the exit of Arnage and getting it all spooled up here, mentally bracing to come down into the Porsche curves. Looking at his speed right about here, it's about 157, 160 miles an hour as he works his way through here. Sweeping complex, as you said, just so wonderful. It's one of my favorite things in the world during multi-class racing to just see a GT and prototypes going through here at full tilt. It's absolutely incredible, and these Formula 3s making very quick work of the curves.
Yeah, absolutely. Calvin Lee is in and out of the Porsche curves section, and those two little kinks on the exit bringing you back online for the Ford chicanes. This track can offer you plenty of opportunities to rest in the first half, but you're definitely working hard in the second half of the track, and that's where it can be made or broken. So Lee out across the line. Is this going to be an improvement for him? 3:53.18. It certainly is. 4 tenths up.
4/10 up, but he's not going to find himself any farther up the track. Now, the last driver here to take that time, it's going to be Hans Salnave. Salnave currently back in 5th right now. He's got a pretty Ooh, that was not good on the exit of Arnage. May have avoided a slowdown penalty, but it'll definitely cost him time.
Yeah, if you go a little bit too hard into that corner, it's the slowest corner on the circuit, so you really got to pull it up for that one. And a bit of a compromised exit on the run up to the Porsche curves. It's a pretty substantial straight onto the run on the run up to these turns, so that's another area where a lap time can be absolutely right or absolutely wrong. But Hans Salnave is going to press on here, continue to strut his stuff out there as the session will come to a close very shortly. The checkered flag has flown, but we're just in the grace period now for drivers to finish laps that they're already on.
Yeah, exactly. And Salnave is the last of those to do that lap. So here he comes through the Ford chicane. It's going to be a little bit close if he's going to get an improvement here or not. Not the best angle there through that third part of it. He's going to cross over the line. That is not going to be an improvement for Hans Salnave. So he will stay back in 5th place.
Indeed, he shall, and it looks like that's pretty much all the drivers done out there. Calvin Lee is still out there at the moment, making his way down the Mulsanne Straight, of course punctuated by chicanes since 1991. And on the run down to Mulsanne Corner here, this is going to be an interesting corner, DJ, because it's basically a prime overtaking opportunity with a very heavy braking zone, but it's a little bit faster than it seems, and you can use quite a bit of the curbs here.
Yeah, indeed. And with the speed that I think they're going to be carrying there, that flick is going to be very, very difficult. They're going to have to straighten out the car as quickly as possible to avoid any locking of the front or rear tires when they get down into it. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see a little bit of an aggressive move there, but Reese, I've got to be thinking that if you're thinking about getting the car to the end, the better move for the braking is going to be into one of the chicanes or maybe down into Indianapolis if you've got some guts.
Yeah, exactly. You definitely need guts to make a move into here, but you know, you can fit cars too wide on the entry into this corner, so it's all well and good. Yeah, you are right though. If it's often better to make moves at the ends of long straights rather than leading on to the next one, because it just allows your rival an opportunity to draft right back past you again. At the very least, if someone breaks away up at the front, hopefully the drivers can work together in the draft train to try and catch back up, but if they dice with each other too much, that's going to allow whoever's out in the lead to get away.
Yeah, for sure. And with the leads that we've seen Michael Broomhead be able to pull, got to be a little bit scared of that ability from him. I do have to say, though, with Hardman being able to get that 0.6 of a second advantage, could we maybe see a little bit of leapfrog played by these two drivers if they try to break away from the likes of Calvin Lee and Nicholas Colander?
Yeah, but I think we could see that. But it looks like we have a grid on our hands, DJ.
We do indeed, and let's run you on through that. You've heard us say it a couple of times here. Andrew Hardiman will be starting off on the pole, followed by Michael Broomhead to his outside. Calvin Lee will be behind him in third, followed by Nicholas Colander in fourth, and bringing up the back of the field will be Hans Salnave. Todd Curtis not here tonight, from what we understand.
Indeed, he's dealing with a broken bone at the moment. Get well soon, Todd. Hopefully things work out for you on that front. So we're not going to be seeing him out on track tonight, but we've still got 5 cars out there looking to provide a good race for all of us here on GSRC on YouTube. Love the views around this Le Mans circuit. This place has been around since 1921, and man, I absolutely love it.
I do too. It is always one of my favorite things. Being on the West Coast, the least favorite thing of it is to get up at the crack of dawn to watch the start of it. But be able to go about during the day and pop back into the race and all of that back and forth. But today we're looking at a field of Formula 3 machines as the 5 drivers here are gridded up. Just Waiting for those engines to start to harmonize here. There they go. They are off. It's a good jump for Andrew Hardiman. He's got a very, very good jump on the field. Looks like Calvin Lee got a little bit bogged down, and that's going to be Collender moving his way into third. Collender starting to maybe put a little bit of a challenge onto Broomhead here as they make their way up the hill for the first time.
Oh, and Broomhead almost had a look there at Andrew Hardman coming into the Dunlop chicane, but it was covered off nicely, and Broomhead backed out of it. The top four starting to break away now from Hans Salnave as they make their way through the S's. And Andrew Hardman a bit wide in the left-hander. He goes across the curb, and Broomhead gets the over-under, makes his way past him for the lead. Hardman still in the grass, massively compromised through that turn, through Tetra Rouge then. Let's go. Broomhead out in the lead and already starting to streak away.
Yes, he is getting away nice and cleanly there. I'm seeing in the back a little bit. That's going to be a side-by-side between Lee and Collender. Lee has the advantage. Collender slips in behind him right now, maybe hoping to get a little bit more of an advantage of the draft as they go down into the first chicane off the Mulsanne.
25-minute race, so that should result in 5, maybe 6 laps as there's contact between second and third. Nicholas Collender sending Calvin Lee off the road and into the barrier there. That was straight up rear end contact in the braking zone.
Oh, you hate to see it, but we're going to jump back to the replay here very quickly to check this out. Collender coming up on Lee, just misjudging that braking as he dove out to the inside. Lee being sent out to a trip into the Armco. I'm taking a look right now at Calvin Lee's car. He does look like he's suffering a little bit in a straight line, so maybe some front wing damage. But out front, Broomhead already stretching that advantage out.
Lee did clobber the wall pretty hard with the front end, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was aero damage on that on the rear as well from where Collender gave him the tap. These cars don't produce as much downforce as bigger, faster cars, but if you're not careful, then you can certainly mess up the aero. And I mean, visually, the livery kind of masks any damage that there is, but it doesn't seem like there's too much damage for Calvin Lee as it stands at the moment, but he is running at a bit of a reduced pace, so he might have to take his spare car.
Yeah, he may indeed. Up ahead, though, you see there, Broomhead playing a little bit of gamesmanship. He's got an advantage of about 1.8 seconds, but I think he was just moving off of the traditional racing line, maybe trying to break the draft back to Andrew Hardman a little bit if he could. Now they head down into that fearsome Indianapolis complex.
Broomhead's
That was
gone
Broomhead.
off. Yes.
Broomhead is off at Indianapolis. He missed his braking zone. We're going to go back and check out this replay. Reese, talk us through this.
Oh my goodness, what on earth went on here at Indianapolis? I mean, we've talked a lot about how treacherous it is. It looked like Broomhead just got a little unsettled on the brake application. You have to brake and turn at the same time coming into Indianapolis, and I think the car just got a little bit squirrely, got away from him, so he had to go straight on. Thank goodness he didn't get into the barriers, but either way, it is Hardman out in the lead now.
And so we're back on our leader here. Michael Broomhead about 9 seconds back from the leader, about 1.7 seconds back from Nicholas Collender in second. So he's going to have his work cut out for him to get back up through the field at this point. But right now, it is Andrew Hardman up front, a gap of about 7.8 seconds as he makes his way through the Ford chicanes for the first time.
Oh, maybe a little too hard in. That was a compromised exit, but lap 1 finally complete. 4 minutes and 1 second is the lap time for Andrew Hardman off the line. So let's see then what the other drivers can do to try and catch up. Broomhead's already working his way back up here, trying to go up the inside of Nicholas Collender into the Dunlop chicane. Of course, he's on the outside through turn 1, but he extends the turn in and gets by. When they get to the braking zone and they make contact, Collender locks up, and that is front wing damage for Nick.
Oh, it is, and right at the beginning of the lap, which means he's going to have to deal with that for a good long while. Can also report that Salnave and Calvin Lee have both stopped into the pits, presumably taking their spare cars here early.
Indeed, and Broomhead made another mistake on the run up to Tete Rouge there. I don't think we need to get a... well, okay, we're going to go for a replay of it. Because Broomhead, well, he got massively squirrely here on the run up to Tete Rouge. Just a little bit too hard in, and then the understeer took him. And he did the same thing that happened to Andrew Hardman on the first lap. He just got into the grass and could not get out.
Yeah, and that happens. You get on that throttle a little bit too early coming up out of that chicane, and it will come back to bite you. You've got to be very, very careful and very patient coming out of that S section. This is your leader, though, Andrew Hardman, and there you can see Broomhead in the background. Now, that gap is 12 seconds as of right now. Broomhead, we've seen the pace. He may be able to close this in a little bit, but he's gonna have to be running perfectly, and thus far, Reese, he has not been able to do that today.
Yeah, there's been some uncharacteristic errors from Michael Broomhead so far in this race. Hopefully he'll be able to overcome them and we can get a nice battle for the lead here. You can already see the time delta ticking down with a bit of a better exit out of the chicane there for Michael Broomhead, but he's only just chipping away corner by corner, inch by inch as Hardman makes his way into Mulsanne corner, very aggressive on the turn-in and trying to get the best exit possible down this straight line section that's been a part of the circuit for basically 100 years now.
Yeah, indeed, it has. These images so iconic around here. So it is so lovely to see these cars here, and iRacing has done such an incredible job of recreating the circuit, the run through the trees down to Indianapolis, one of the more iconic pieces of racetrack in the world.
As is this at Indianapolis, which pays homage to another iconic place, of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the corner's named as such because it is a bit banked, so you can carry quite a bit of speed through there. So, Andrew Hardman, he's not made any mistakes on this lap, and seems that he's keeping it nice and consistent. Broomhead's continuing to bring the gap down. It's now at 11.8 seconds. So he's not going to have much time here to make up the gap. If this pace is kept up as it is, he'll probably be relying on a mistake from Hardman at this stage.
Yeah, I think that's what he's got to hope for, but Hardman not really looking like he's giving him much of an opportunity. He's only been able to take a couple of tenths out of that lead for now. Hardman able to make his way out of one of the technical sections for now, so that'll be a relief to him coming through the Ford chicanes right now. Let's see if he takes another big whack on the curbs. No, that was a nice little run for Hardman. So he's going to come across the line here. That last lap for Andrew Hardman, a 3:51.5. So that is the fastest lap of the race. Now Broomhead getting ready to cross over the line. Let's see what his was. Maybe that'll give us a comparative time, a 3:54.3. Now remember, that does include that little runoff he had going up to Tete Rouge, but certainly needs to do better if he wants to win this race.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be difficult here for Broomhead to get it done, but it's a nice clean run through the opening section here for Andrew Hardman. And Nicholas Colander, I'm sorry to take attention away from the lead battle, but Colander is very slow. And I took a look back, and it started at around Indianapolis. I'm wondering if he might have accidentally put qualifying fuel into the car, because ever since Indianapolis, he has not been accelerating.
Let's watch him. We're going to go on board with the Northwest driver here. Makes his way down. Car looking like it's starting to slow there, Reese, already into Indianapolis.
So it's either qualifying fuel in the car or something's gone wrong with the engine. Yeah, there we go, out of fuel. So a bit of a fueling error there for Nicholas Colander. No wonder he was so quick in the opening laps. Didn't have the fuel to complete the race.
Yeah, there you see him just coasting to a halt. That's Calvin Lee getting his way around him right now. So that's going to be a spot up for Lee.
Oh, wait. He just let Calvin Lee by and sped back up again. Did he redress the position from the incident on lap 1?
That may be what it is, Reese. I think that's exactly what it is. The sportsmanship here in Flying Huskies coming out to display. Corollary feeling a little bit of bad for that contact. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, giving the position back to Calvin Lee.
Well, good stuff there, Nicholas Colander. Now they can resume their battle. Let's hope that they can put on a show for us.
And there we go.
I get some metric figures. Nice to see. 230 kilometers an hour on the run up to the Dunlop chicane. And DJ, it's amazing how much of the curves you can use here through these sections. iRacing worked directly with the Automobile Club de l'Ouest, who organizes the Le Mans 24-hour and manages this circuit. It resulted in some good applications of track limits, I think, as Colander tries up the inside of Calvin Lee at Tetra Rouge. You see Lee goes all the way across that curve there. As long as you get back onto the track before the curve ends, then that's not going to give you a slowdown. And I really like the application of track limits here, as that's a massive draft there for Nicholas Colander. Calvin Lee, of course, still carrying, I think, a bit of front wing damage on his right-hand side, so it looks like a pretty easy move done.
Yes, pretty easy move done, but I do believe Lee has taken that free spare car, as he did come into the pit lane there, Reese. So that may just be a bit of a draft, or Lee could have come down the pits and not clicked on that fast repair.
I don't think he did, because he has got some right-hand side front wing damage, and that is harming his straight line speed quite a bit. I don't know why he's not sticking in the draft of Nicholas Colander here, because I think he'll need every ounce of extra speed he can get.
Yeah, I think he will too. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is for him doing that necessarily, but to each their own. Yeah, there you can see at that right hand side of the wing, definitely crumpled up a little bit. Andrew Hardman crossing the line to set a fastest lap of the race. So he has already started to balloon that gap out back to Broomhead to the tune of about 15 seconds. So it's grown by about 3 seconds here at this point. Hardman not able to respond, putting in a 3-minute 54. So definitely losing time to our leader.
Yeah, Broomhead not been able to find the pace here, and I'm a little worried for him there, because, you know, if Hardman can come away with this win, then that's going to be the championship gap with a little bit extra sliced off it, and Broomhead's going to have to start looking over his shoulder a little bit more in the last few rounds of this championship. But I love watching cars coming down the Mulsanne straight here. You know, the angle here, it still gives you a good sense of speed, but Hardman is bouncing off the rev limiter in 6th gear here at 270 kilometers an hour on the run up to the Mulsanne chicanes, which you can carry quite a bit of speed through. You do have to be careful of running too far beyond the curbs there, otherwise you'll get a slow down penalty. And again, down the straight. It's I'm interested to see that the Formula 3 cars max out so early here.
Yeah, there it is. Woo, that's a little bit of a kerfluffle, I would have to say, on your screen. Looks like multiple problems coming out of our notch. That is Salnave, who is up to 3rd right now. Courtesy of that, I think this was Colander. All right, so this is Salnave in the middle there. That is Colander coming up behind him right now. Diving down through that right-hander, getting ready for Indianapolis. That is going to be Lee up ahead of them. And so this is where the problem starts.
Yeah, Lee just locked up going in and ran wide and into the wall. And it seems to me that Colander and Salnave sorting out their position there.
Yeah, indeed he did, and there must have been an incident to happen there to Colander, I think, to get Salnave in between them, but you can see already Nicholas Colander back up into that final podium position and able to get by Hans Salnave.
I'm going to go back and see how Salnave got into this. Oh, I think I've just caught it. Looks to me like on the run up to Indianapolis, for some reason, Colander and Lee kind of slowed down. Colander definitely slowed down and let Salnave through. Maybe they were all trying to form a draft train to try and get back up to the leaders. Either way, Calvin Lee, with that extra incident, is now back in the pits, and he might have already taken his spare car, so he's probably going to be in there a while.
Indeed he is. We focus back here on our leader, though, as he makes his way through the Porsche curves again. And remember, this is the older scan of this circuit. Those walls there to your right now extended out a little bit more runoff around the track following some very scary incidents at the Circuit de la Sarthe a couple of years ago. So a little bit outdated for our eagle-eyed viewers, but it is still an absolutely incredible circuit and a great scan by iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome that they got the opportunity to actually scan this circuit when it was set up, you know, just going there in the night when the public were out on the roads and getting that scan data in. Another fastest lap from Andrew Hardman, 3:51.2. Let's see if Broomhead can respond to that or if the gap will stay stable. It's at about 15.8, so it looks like, a 3:51.9 from Michael Broomhead. So responding finally to Andrew Hardman, but I don't think it's enough at this stage. He's still 7/10 off.
No, he doesn't quite have it there as Hardman makes his way out of the S and onto Tetra Rouge. Good exit there for him and back into the woods going on Mulsanne. You know, Reese, I was lucky enough, and some of our viewers may obviously be very familiar with a movie that was shot around these parts in Ford versus Ferrari. And the recreation of Le Mans, very incredible in that, but I was able to hear from James Mangold that they somehow miraculously did not go to Le Mans and actually found three separate stretches of road in Georgia. They were each about 3 hours away from each other that represented Mulsanne, White House, and the curves coming through there. And eagle-eyed viewers, including myself, could recognize that it wasn't it, but I think it was a pretty fairly passable job.
Well, you know, I mean, that certainly goes to show the amount of effort that goes into producing movies. The fact that you're able to, out of all of the roads in the United States, narrow it down to those three. I mean, I did do a little bit of film studies at university, so I am aware of the insane amount of work that goes into location scouting and prepping for stuff like that. You know, and having said all of that, I've never watched Ford versus Ferrari. It's certainly on my list of movies to watch, but man, I'll have to keep an eye out for those Georgian stretches of road.
I cannot recommend it enough to you and to any of our viewers. It is truly, it captures the insanity of racing car drivers. To anybody that is a fan of any sort of racing in the world and knows cars, you will not recognize Matt Damon because he became Carroll Shelby, and it was really quite incredible to watch.
Nice to hear. Very nice to hear. Andrew Hardman still making his way down the run to Indianapolis once more, and switching on over to the left-hand side for the entry into this turn. It's flat out through the first part, and then as the curb ends, you jump on the brakes here for the left-hander. And nice and smooth here from Andrew Hardman. It's good to see. He's obviously put in a lot of time getting ready for this race and running pretty much mistake-free at this stage. And Le Mans is one of those circuits, I think, that when you do a lap around it and you nail the flow, like you nail every single braking zone, every single corner, it's one of the best feelings in the world. I think that it almost rivals getting a lap right at the Nordschleife, which I know is a bit of a controversial statement to some people out there, but I certainly find it on a satisfaction level to be equal to tracks like Nürburgring and Bathurst and Spa and all that. It's the history, I think, obviously plays a big part in that, but I think it's just a nice circuit to drive.
No, I agree with you. There's a wonderful flow to the circuit, and you know, the slow speed corners like we're coming up to as we ride on board with Andrew Hardman going through the Ford chicanes, they don't feel like on modern circuits where they break up some of that flow. It comes at a point that makes sense to it. You then come here and work your way up the hill going through the Dunlop chicane over the bridge. It has a lovely way to go about it, and it's just absolutely a treat to drive. I could not agree with you more, Reese.
You do have to be careful of the bumps, though, on the entry into that Dunlop chicane, as the fastest lap goes to Michael Broomhead, first driver, into the 3-minute 50s there. So the gap has been brought down to about 14.7 seconds, but with only 5 minutes to go, that's 2 laps of this place, and you're not going to make up 14 seconds in 2 laps on pace alone.
No, you are not. He has got to be hoping here that Hardman makes a mistake at some point. But Hardman, despite running a little bit slower on that last lap, about 2 seconds slower than Broomhead behind, still holding out a pretty sizable advantage here. So he has just got to be hoping for an absent-minded moment from the number 11 machine.
Well, no such moment is coming here through the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. Hardman nailing the throttle and just keeping it off the curbs, wants to keep the car settled. Doesn't want to risk any damage here, especially now that they are in the final 5th of the race. And this race is going to take a little bit longer than previous Flying Husky races. Yes, the time remains at 25 minutes, but because the track is like 4 minutes long, obviously that means a time extension of about 3 minutes so that they can complete the final lap. Hopefully they've all had their cars filled up to the amount required for that. Hardman out of Mulsanne chicane 2. Doesn't quite go onto the shoulder of the road like we see drivers do in the real life race through the French countryside, but reasonable all the same. And in these lower momentum, lower speed, cars, often it can be better to take those slightly narrower lines out of the corners, preserve some forward momentum there.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about that sort of compromise that you often hear drivers talking about, of going, well, you know, this is the traditional racing line that you would take if all things were equal, but coming out onto that longer straight, I want to carry a little bit more speed getting onto it. And this being one of those long straights, the run down to Indianapolis here for Andrew Hardman. Coming on down, gets that kink just right, slinks it over to the right-hand side of the road, handles that corner absolutely beautifully, and continues on his way here down through Arnage.
On the throttle there in, I believe, second gear, and another brilliant run for Andrew Hardman. I think, you know, if he ends up coming away with this victory, he will be very satisfied, especially after what happened on lap 1. Those mistakes for Broomhead on laps 2 and 3 certainly what helped him to get to this point. But again, we got to remember, this is the guy that started on pole, so certainly knowing his way around this circuit. And the line through the Porsche curves is continuing to be consistent. He just extended the turn in a little bit, but ran wide. That's a very difficult corner at Corvette. It's off camber, and you got to turn in early, run across the curb, and be careful of the curbing on the exit as well, because if you run too far beyond it, you will get a slowdown. But coming out of the Ford chicane, it's going to be white flag here for Andrew Hardman with 1 minute and 39 seconds to go.
Yes, it will. And watching his lines there through the Ford chicane, I am getting the sense that he is not pushing as hard as he normally would. Definitely looked like he was backing off a little bit. And I think that is just him managing the gap a little bit. One thing that he may have to encounter here, depending on what happens up the road, Saulnabe's about 18 seconds up the road. Could potentially catch him if Hans has a little bit of a problem. Hans's last lap was very, very slow compared to Andrew's, so there is a chance that we could deal with a little bit of lap traffic around here. Not a big one, but there is a chance.
Well, in terms of qualifying pace, Saulnabe was about 15 seconds off Andrew Hardman's time. Saulnabe's had a little bit of trouble getting consistent runs around the entire circuit. So I think there is a fair chance that Hardman might come up towards him towards the end of the lap, but certainly for the time being, he's safe out there on his lonesome with a Mulsanne chicane separating them, which he's navigating as we speak. In terms of lap times, yeah, Hardman is definitely backing off there. His last lap was a 3:52.7 versus a 3:51.8 for Broomhead. But Hardman at this stage knows it is the final lap, and the gap is still way out over 12 seconds. You know, he just needs to lift and coast a bit, just take it easy like he's doing a sighting lap, and he'll still be able to come home with victory.
Yeah, for sure. And even on that last lap, Broomhead was a little bit faster by the tune of about a second, but the gap is still 12 seconds. So he's got all of the time in the world to be able to make this work.
Towards the left-hand side of the circuit and over this hump on the run-up to Mulsanne Corner. This hump used to be a lot higher in previous years. It was leveled a few decades ago, because especially before the chicanes were put in, cars were carrying so much speed over that hump they were actually getting airborne, which you know, is not what you want in a 24-hour race when you're racing in the pitch dark at midnight. So all well and good now. It's a little more of a sedate up and down ride, but Hardman down towards Indianapolis, one of the few parts of the circuit that's remained pretty much unaltered, apart from obviously sealing and widening over the years. One more time for Andrew, hard on the brakes, and again, just looks like he nails that corner.
Yeah, that is one of those corners, Reese, that if you get it right, it gives you such a great sense of satisfaction. The camber on it, it just flows so perfectly. You can feel the car hook up right at the apex, and Andrew really hitting every one of those each time by. Now he makes his way towards the Porsche curves for the last time here, just waiting to get into those sweeping sections of the track. Still has a 12-second gap over Broomhead behind him.
Indeed, and again, super clean through the Porsche curves. He doesn't have to take any more out of the car than he needs to at this stage. Now the hard part is well and truly over. Home stretch.
Yep, just 4 corners here to go for the Canadian Andrew Hardman to take victory at the Circuit de la Sarthe here at Le Mans. 1, 2, nice and easy. 3 and 4. Comes on to the pit straightaway, looks at Barney the flagman waving the checkered flag, and that is victory at Le Mans for Andrew Hardman. Behind him, Michael Broomhead coming through those same corners. He will take second place here today, ending his streak of wins.
Indeed he will, and my goodness, how far ahead of everyone else are the 2 leaders. Nicholas Colander about 3 minutes and 17 seconds behind Andrew Hardman at the line, so we've still got plenty of action to go in this race as Colander makes his way around the rest of the lap. He's all on his own, Calvin Lee is all on his own, Hans Salnave is all on his own, so these guys just trying to get to the flag now.
Indeed they are, but we've seen that there are still play areas that you can get caught out for as we watch Colander now cresting over the hill on the back of the Mulsanne straight, getting ready to line up for that second chicane, brings the car all the way over to the right-hand side of the road to get onto the binders. There he gets it through nice and easy, not taking a whole lot of curbing there. I think Nicholas is also doing the same as we've seen from some of our leaders, taking it a little bit easy here, not wanting to run the risk of getting into an incident this late in the race.
This is a bit of a unique case here for Flying Husky. You know, there's often a few drivers who will finish, you know, a minute or so behind the leader, maybe a couple of laps down if there's been a bit of trouble for them out on track. But this Le Mans circuit is so long that all of these guys have remained on the lead lap effectively. They haven't gotten blue flags, so they still have quite a bit to go here, still racing hard on the way up to the line. Nicholas Colander, where he pulled over to let Hans Salnave past. We're still not quite sure why that happened, but he still managed to work his way back up into a podium position despite all of that, and I think he's going to be happy with this, having gained a position after starting 4th.
I think he will too. And as we said, a little bit of a yo-yo for him, obviously allowing Calvin Lee by earlier in the race as a bit of a courtesy there for him, having caused contact with Lee going into that first chicane on the first lap. But Colander showing his skill and being able to fight his way back up through. Now Colander makes his way through the Porsche curves. Good line there into 1. This is one of those areas that if you get offline in the first or second corner, it's very similar to the Maggots or Beckett's complex at Silverstone, that if you get offline in the early stages of this, it'll throw you off big time. Little bit wide there through those final 2 curves, but he's able to gather it back under him before just getting onto the straight and getting ready for the forward chicanes.
Well, just that double kink, and he's navigated that, then down to the forward chicane he comes and keeps it off the curbs in the first section, clatters over them a little bit in the second, but across the line for 3rd place, Nicholas Colander. A good drive there. He'll be very happy with that. Calvin Lee not too far behind.
And here comes Calvin, taking a little bit more curbing than we've seen from some of the other drivers, but he will cross the line to come home in 4th place. And last up here, it is Hans Salnave. He is coming out of a Corvette curve, lining up for those forward chicanes. Here he comes, ready to go 1 and 2. Brings it back to the right-hand side of the road for 3 and 4, and there he goes, crossing the line to be the final finisher here in the Flying Husky Racing League.
Well, there we go, all 5 cars off and ready to go. Let's go for a very quick break here on GSRC before we run through our race results and talk to the top 3.
Welcome back to the Circuit de la Sarthe, where you just saw the Flying Huskies tackle this monstrous and famous track. As you saw there, the finishing order was as follows. Andrew Hardman winning from pole, but not without a few hiccups on the way. Michael Broomhead was able to come home behind him, with Nicholas Colander rounding out your podium. Calvin Lee had a little bit of a kerfluffle early on in the race, but was able to come home in fourth, with Hans Salnave in fifth. And now we are happy to welcome into the booth here today Andrew Hardman himself, your winner. As we get him here, Andrew, little bit of a scruffy first lap there for you coming through Tetra Rouge, but you fought back hard, and once you got into the lead, you never looked back.
Yeah, it was after that it was all about keeping it clean, but yeah, the first lap was a little bit sketchy. I'm not sure if you remember, but I guess 2 weeks ago, I binned it in the first corner, or first set of corners. I had spent 2 weeks marinating and trying not to do that, and then as soon as I got through the first set of corners here, I was so excited that I decided to bin it in the second or third set of corners. So just not my day on the first lap, but luckily enough, I was able to sort of capitalize on some mistakes and keep it clean, and yeah, it was a good race.
Well, I did want to ask you, as it looked like that race was going along, I was kind of watching your line, especially coming through the Ford chicanes. How much were you just kind of managing the race there in those closing laps, and how much were you pushing, maybe trying to get a few bragging rights for fastest lap?
Yeah. So first, I don't know, 3-4 laps, I was pushing fairly hard just to see if I could keep that gap to Mike, and I saw that it was stabilizing at over 10 seconds. So I figured probably not a good idea to push too hard and lose it, because this track is quite easy to do that on. So yeah, I was at the end, I was content to let him pull a little bit of time out of me, but still kept it for the win.
Well, we head from one famous European circuit to another next time out. We're going to Spa. How do you like your chances there, Andrew?
Spa's been a favorite of mine for a while. I think it's one of the most fun tracks to drive. On iRacing, however, it's a little bit annoying with all the slowdowns and stuff, so we'll have to be wary of those, but I'm looking forward to it just because it's going to be some awesome racing, and I hope to have some of the other guys back. I've sort of had a couple unfortunate circumstances leading to a couple people being out of the race this week, so hopefully they're back next time.
Well, I know we're looking forward to it, Andrew. There we go, if I can remember how to speak. Anybody you'd like to thank for this victory here today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank, of course, Mike and the whole Britannia crew for putting together a good team, and all the fun we have on Tuesday nights is because of them. And I'd also like to thank Nick Colander for crashing into Calvin there. I know he'll laugh about that when he reads or watches this back. So thanks to him.
All right, a little bit of gamesmanship there. I like it. That was your winner tonight, Andrew Hardman. And now Reese has caught up with Michael Broomhead, your second place finisher.
Indeed, championship leader, but second on the road for you today, Michael. You did get a good start, but those first couple of laps didn't quite go your way in the opening sector.
No, I made a little bit of an error there. I think I just lost it on the braking and just got over the curb and just went a little bit straight on, but at least I didn't contact the wall there.
Well, it seemed that Andrew Hardman had the run here today. Was it difficult for you to try and make up that gap?
Oh, yeah. I was pushing really hard, making a lot of mistakes, I'm really trying to get close to him. Andrew had a lot of speed today, but, we didn't have a lot of people show up today. Unfortunately, we couldn't, not a lot of them could make it, and Todd's injured himself. So, we were having a bit of fun, and it was good to really push these cars to their limits and, a few mistakes here and there, but it was fun nonetheless.
So how do you find Le Mans in the F3? Have you driven it in any other cars here on iRacing, and how do they compare?
Yeah. So, I've done the majors race, a few races with the LMP cars and that sort of thing. And, it's a super fun track with the F3. You can really take a lot of the corners flat. Push and, put it on the ragged edge, really, which is not something you really do in a GT3 car. So it's quite a lot of fun. Big track for these cars, low downforce, but maybe next time we come back, we'll have a larger pack and we'll be able to do some drafting. But like I say, it's fun nonetheless.
Well, there's going to be plenty of drafting opportunities at Spa next round. How are you feeling about that?
Pretty good. We just did the majors, sorry, not majors, the PRL race there with Britannia iSports. So we have a good setup for it, and we have a lot of practice there. It's a fun track, and hopefully we can entice some people to come out and join us. And yeah, I mean, it's looking good for the points as well. And Andrew's caught me up a little bit, but we'll see how it goes.
Certainly shall. Anyone that you'd like to thank before we let you go, Michael?
Yeah, of course. You guys for putting this on. The coverage is always great, and of course, it's us having an enjoyable time on a sim. So we really appreciate the people watching and the people who come out. It's still a budding series, but the sponsors as well. AlicesLight.com and Mountain Range Marketing. But yeah.
Oh, that's Michael Broomhead there, second place on the road here at Le Mans, and final driver interview of the night. DJ, you're going to be stood by with P3, Nicholas Colander.
I am indeed. Nicholas, you had to do a little bit of fighting there across the board, but able to come home on that last step of the podium.
My guys, how are you? First and foremost, I just want to apologize to Calvin. I creamed him pretty bad first lap, which led to drama. I believe in on-track respect and etiquette, and I pride myself in being not the fastest driver by any stretch, but I can control my car and I'm safe. So what actually happened was I pulled for him to give him the spot back so we could race again. That's just how we roll. It's fun. It's racing. We're a tight-knit community, so it's something I actually used to do in RC. If someone crashed, we're having fun on club night. Let's just have some fun and race. So Hans got a chance to get in there too. It was a blast. That's what it's all about, guys.
Well, that's what I love. We were talking about it on the broadcast. We weren't sure what happened. Then we saw the slowdown. We figured that's what that was. And we were complimenting you. I love that kind of feeling out of you guys. But in terms of the racing around here, you're kind of the one who had the most side-by-side action around the mall. How do you like the F3s and slicing and dicing around this circuit that's not exactly made for open wheelers?
I'm an open wheel guy. I hate to be negative, but the speed in this car doesn't really match the track, if that makes sense. So we're always yearning and redlining, but side-by-side racing, you can't beat it. Huge shout out to Mike and Todd for setting all this up. That's what it's really all about, just having a blast. But yeah, I'm looking forward to more races with the guys, if that makes any sense.
No, for sure. And we're looking forward to them as well, including next week up when we go back to a track that is a little bit more suited for the open wheelers, going to Spa. How do you like your chances?
I'll probably take the week off. I'm actually having my first child tomorrow. My son Axel, my wife will bring him into the world, and hopefully he can check this video out in the future, learn about racing, learn about character, learn about some good times, and hopefully he shares my passion for autosport as well. So I'll probably take it off unless my wife is really upset with me and wants space or something, but I doubt it. I'm gonna just focus on the little one.
I think that's a reasonable thing to be coming into thinking about. But Nicholas, first off, from all of us, congratulations, man. That is an amazing thing to hear. I can't express how happy we are for you. But anybody you'd like to thank for this third place that you hopefully will get to show your son here at some point?
Calvin, I want to thank him for just being always great on track. He's a blast to race with. Sorry for hitting you again, brother. Mike Broomhead. Mike's been a huge part of my transition to sim racing. He's made a positive journey. It's kind of like my Obi-Wan. Shout out to Andrew. He's also an ex-RC racer. He's fast as hell. Love him. And my wife, my wife is just a blast. She lets me, enjoy my passions in my free time. And again, huge shout out to you guys. What you guys do is huge for the community, and you're greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you very much, Nicholas. It is our pleasure to do it. That is going to wrap up our broadcast here tonight. But before we go, we'd like to give one more shout out to our sponsors, including Norsled, Save a Husky. For more information, contact Todd Curtis through email at todd@flyinghusky.racing, as well as Flying Husky Racing. For more information, go to their website, flyinghusky.racing. Flying Husky Racing, track days are the best days. We'd also like to give a big thanks to the companies that provide our software and hardware for our broadcast. They are listed there on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Reese, Sean, and Dougie. You can find out more about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed down on the bottom of your screen. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below just so you can get to it easily. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. You've heard us mention it a couple of times. Our next race for the Flying Huskies is going to be August 24th at 8:35 p.m., and they will be tackling this fearsome Spa-Francorchamps circuit. We also have some other upcoming races listed here on your screen, so check them out, mark them down on your calendars. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.